Welcome to ClearPath Retirement Radio. From retirement income and tax planning to protecting the savings you've worked a lifetime to build, this is real-world financial talk designed for real people. People who want clear answers, not sales pitches, so you can make informed decisions and plan for retirement with confidence. Now, here are your hosts, Stewart Smith and Mitch Davies.
You're lying in bed with your spouse sound asleep beside you. You peek over at the clock. It's 2:22 a.m. and you've been trying to get to sleep for hours. The problem is you're retiring in a few months from a company you've been working for 32 years, and you're anxious. What will it feel like not to work? It's been your identity. It's been what makes you, you. And more importantly, will you and your family be okay financially? You've been diligent saver, putting away 10 to 15% of your income into the 401k for 32 years, and you've managed to accumulate quite an impressive balance. But lately you've realized a major portion of it is not yours to keep. How will taxes and inflation impact it? Are taxes going up in the future? When will I need this money the most? Are there steps I could be taking to help with this? When should I take Social Security? What about health care? This Medicare stuff is complicated. Can we afford to travel or help our kids if they need it? What if we have an expensive health care event and need skilled nursing care at $10,000 to $12,000 a month? Can we survive that? I'm Stewart Smith, the founder and president of ClearPath Retirement Planning. And the answer to these questions and many other important questions can't be answered by a person. They're answered by a plan. And that's what we do. Welcome into ClearPath Retirement Radio. I'm Stewart Smith, and I'm here with Mitch Davies.
Welcome.
And we are going to talk about some of these questions that keep our clients up at night. And Mitch, I tell you, we do see a lot of anxiousness, a lot of worried folks. They come in and they're feeling pretty uneasy.
It's quite the story, Stewart, and you're exactly right. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we hear every week, right? Some variation of this, and it's so true. People really tend to vest their identity in their career, and it's, they're proud and they're doing this thing, and it's, you've got that element, and then you've got the financial element, of course, and that fear is really what keeps people up at night, and that's what we're able to answer every week, and it's exciting. It's really comforting to be able to provide that insight to people, and we got an exciting show today.
Yeah, I tell you, I'm going through it with my own brother right now. My brother is getting ready to retire. He is the ripe old age of 58, and he has worked really, really hard. And he's been with the same company for, 18, 19 years. This is his second company that he's worked for in his life. And I tell you, he is just, he knows, and I keep reassuring him that he's going to be fine, and we've done the planning, we have everything in place, but it's still very, very difficult to make that transition. And, when you start thinking about, oh my gosh, I'm going to transition out of this place where I am putting money into these accounts, and my employer's putting money into these accounts, and they're growing, to all of a sudden we flip a switch and we're not putting money in, our employee's not putting money in, and now we're just spending it. And they possibly might go through a period where they're not growing, but they're shrinking. That can cause a lot of anxiety in folks. And, that's why it is so critically important to not sit across from an advisor that is just going to tell you everything is going to be fine. Don't put your faith in somebody's opinion. Put your faith in a plan, a real plan that someone shows you in black and white, goes through the numbers with you, models through the scenarios that most worry you. What are taxes going to do? what is inflation going to do? What is, a major market correction? How's that going to feel? Am I going to be able to get through that? That is where you put your faith and the real planning end of things. And that's, I'm really proud to say that that's what we do at Clear Path Retirement Planning. And I think Mitch understands that and knows that well, as he's been by my side for the last 3 years and been able to see, firsthand the type of planning that changes lives.
I mean, that makes me, Stewart, that reminds me of we sat down with a prospect a month ago, and they had been working this exact scenario. He had a great income with a company. He's been working there for 25, 30 years. He was working a lot of hours. He was working 60 hours. He wanted to retire as soon as he could. And he came in, he said, my current advisor said I could retire last year, right? But he didn't believe it. Not that he didn't trust the guy, not that he didn't think he was a good advisor, but he didn't see a plan. He didn't see anything that said he could retire. He just said, the advisor said you've got enough investments, if the market does well, you're good. But he needed something. He needed to really see and understand. And what we were able to do is take him through our Clear Path retirement process, which really dug much deeper than he had ever dug. And he got to learn a lot. And it was a very insightful process. And at the end of it, he was able to see that, he's going to retire at the end of the year, right? And it was such a cool experience for me to be a part of. And it's that's the most valuable thing we can do, is open it up into a whole different way where you can really see how can I actually retire?
Yeah. And what a lot of people worry about is, retirement planning sounds good. It sounds like something that I could potentially need, but what is the true cost of having a retirement planner and someone who is really going to guide you step by step through all of the hard decisions that need to be made, all of the various, strategies and things that need to be utilized in order to live the most efficient, most full, rich retirement possible? And, my answer to that is, what is the cost of not having that person, right? Any good retirement planner should bring enough value to the table to where cost is just an afterthought. They are actually helping you to save more. Fees only matter in the absence of value. And
That's
we
right.
say that time and time again. When people get caught up on fees, anybody who manages your money, anybody who gives you any kind of advice is going to charge you a fee. So to have someone who is, doing nothing but retirement planning, someone who is focused, lives, eats, and breathes and sleeps this stuff, to have that person in your corner as opposed to someone who's just really good at giving investment advice, or someone who, is only good in one of these areas. We are good in all of these areas because that's what we spend our time doing. I've spent the last 2.5 decades learning these strategies, learning how to design and structure things to a way to where you have the absolute highest statistical chance to meet your income goals and live the best retirement you can. So why would you not take advantage of that? I truly don't understand the fear there. I mean, honestly, it's the fear is not rational.
Right.
And, what people need to do is understand that, you don't have to make some big commitment on the front end. You can come in, we can sit down, we can share our views with you. We can show you kind of the blueprint for what we would do if you worked with us before you make a big decision. And if you decide that doesn't feel right for you, we'll shake hands and walk away and be friends.
That's right. I think the biggest thing is, Stewart, people don't know what they don't know, right? And a lot of people's say you're getting close to retirement, maybe your only experience with a financial advisor was someone at a bank, right? And you're like, hey, why am I going to pay this guy 1% to invest my money when I can do that? And we hear that all the time, right? That's a fair thought. But what they don't know is all the different levels to retirement income planning, all the things that we talked about. We do estate planning, we do trusts in our office, an attorney-driven process. We do a much higher level of planning that's not in the realm of just investment advice, right? And that's where the fear is people are like, oh, I don't want to pay somebody when I could just invest in the S&P or something like that, right? So there's so much more to it. And I think, having at least taking a minute, come in and talk, and we can take you through that blueprint process and kind of build out that plan for you and let it just see what it looks like.
Yeah, and I can tell you that having, going through the Clear Path Retirement Checkup, going through our process where we take a look at the big picture. We really dive deep into, all of the things that are keeping you up at night and the things that are really causing you anxiety as you start to enter into this transition period. And I can tell you, again, giving up your identity, the thing that's made you so you for the last 30, 40 years, and working in that career or that job and dealing with those people on a daily basis, if, making that transition to, all of a sudden I'm waking up and I have nowhere to be and nothing that I have to do today, that's scary.
It is.
And we understand that is a scary process mentally, much less have to worry about the financial side of things.
Yeah.
But, it's so much easier when you have the financial things buttoned up. You have, been through the process. Now you have the confidence of knowing we're going to be okay financially. Then you can just take that off the table and focus purely on the emotional and psychological side of it. If this is something you're going through, if this is something that's been eating at you and you just don't know where you stand, we're here. We're here to help you. We're here to listen. Go to clearpathretirement.com. Let us know you want to talk. We'll be right back. Hey, are you approaching the distribution phase of life where it's time to turn the assets you've worked so hard to accumulate into a reliable retirement income? And are you unsure how to do that in the most tax-efficient way possible? At ClearPath Retirement Planning, we help retirees and pre-retirees design income strategies that aim to reduce taxes, manage risk, and create confidence in retirement. Visit clearpathretirement.com to schedule a complimentary consultation.
Thanks for tuning in to ClearPath Retirement Radio with Stewart Smith and Mitch Davies. Let's get back to the show.
This is ClearPath Retirement Radio. I'm Stewart Smith here with Mitch Davies. We're talking about those, that big transition that people make from stepping away from a career, something that's been their identity for 30, 40 plus years, and making that transition into a lifestyle where, you don't have anywhere to be, you don't have anything you have to do. And for most people, that seems like a really great thing. But for a lot of people, that causes a lot of fear and anxiety. And they have to kind of find a new identity in who they are in retirement. And it's been an interesting case study for the last 2.5 decades for me to watch this process and see what people go through. And I think I have learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I've learned, the main thing that I've learned is there's 3 things that people are looking for, Mitch. 3 main things they're looking for. They want to make sure that their money that they've worked so hard to accumulate is protected. They want to make sure it's safe.
Yeah.
They want growth because you have to have growth. It can't just stop, right? And they want income.
Yeah.
Fair?
Super fair.
I mean, that's what people want in retirement, and that's what we help people achieve. And we have proven methods that we've used time and time again for 2.5 decades that we've gotten better and better and better at doing for our clients that allow them the freedom to know their money's okay, they're getting the growth they need to at least keep up with inflation or maybe beat it, and they've got the income that they need. And, those things that come up with life, because life happens, and that's the one thing I can tell you is life definitely happens. You wake up one day and realize we need a new roof, right? The roof is damaged and we need a new roof. Or you wake up and the HVAC's gone out and you need a new heat and air system in the house. Or one of the kids comes knocking at the door and they're here to let you know that, they just, their wife just filed for divorce and they're going to need to stay with you for a while until they can get back on their feet. And, oh, by the way, I need to borrow some money to get through this divorce. I promise I'll pay you back. We've seen it all. We have seen all of those things and more. And what you need to be is clear and understanding, can we do this stuff? Can I lend my child money? Can I help them get through this rough spot? Is it going to cause us issues? Is that going to be a problem? These things are just what happens in life, and you've got to know where you stand at all times, and it's never more important than when you're retired and now you're not working for money anymore. Your money's working for you.
That's exactly right, Stewart. We like to say you want to prepare to have life happen for you, not to you, right? You want to be in retirement and life's happening with you, and your plan for all these unforeseen things. And a lot of what we do is spent talking about things that could happen, and sometimes they don't end up happening, right? But we're accounting for everything that could happen. And what we've seen, it's so, it's the most common theme is you're much more aware of these types of things when you're not working, right? A lot of people, gave the kids a little bit of money for this, or spent a little bit for the grandkids on this. You're not as conscious of it because you've got a paycheck. You've been working, you're probably making good money late in your career. But the second it stops, we talk to people all the time who never watch the market, never cared about the stocks, don't know anything about it while they're working. They're just contributing. But the second they retire, all of a sudden they're spending hours a day looking at their accounts, right? And that's what we try to help avoid, is give you that confidence to not have to do that. That's what we don't want to happen, but we see it all the time. So you're never more aware of these unexpected expenses when you're in retirement and you don't have that paycheck coming. So that's why we need to make sure life's happening with you, not to you.
Yeah, I like to talk about it sometimes, how much of a hiking nut I am. And, when I'm not retirement planning, which is my first passion, my second passion is being up on a mountain on a trail somewhere. And, up on the mountain hiking a few years ago out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, I was, doing a major hike up there. And I just, it dawned on me, and I got to really thinking about how much hiking is like retirement planning.
Yeah.
And we talked about this recently, and do more people die climbing Mount Everest or coming back down? And, was really surprised to find out that actually more people die coming back down than actually climbing Mount Everest. And, when you get to really analyzing that, you think about, why is that? Well, it's probably because they are so hyper-focused on getting to the summit and hitting their goal, their life goal, and checking that box, that they've put all their time and energy and everything they had into getting there. And then once they achieve that, they're tired, they get complacent, and they start making mistakes, and they just don't understand they're only halfway there. Right? And coming back down is just as much work as going up, if not more. Because I don't know if you've ever climbed a mountain, but I can tell you that it hurts less climbing than it does coming back down.
That's
right. So what we, to give you that analogy, what I see is we meet tons of people that come into us who are really good at getting up the mountain. They're really good at saving money, investing money, growing their assets, and getting to that summit, so to speak, which is the retirement. But once they kind of get there, they kind of lose focus. And they're like, I did it. I've already done it. And they're only halfway through the voyage. And what happens is they start to get complacent. They start to pay a lot more taxes than they probably should because they don't understand, tax efficiency in retirement. They stay invested the way they did when they were accumulating assets. And I can tell you that investing in retirement is a totally different ball game than investing when you're accumulating assets and making contributions and getting employer matches and all of that. Right? It's just a totally different deal. You have to really understand how your investments should be, allocated, how they should be set up ahead of time as you go into retirement. You need to make dramatic changes to how you think about investing. And a lot of people just don't do that. No. And they end up taking too much risk, and they don't ever, moderate their risk to be more in line with what it should be in retirement. And they start to make little mistakes like, bringing in too much money to qualify for certain tax breaks that they could be getting, like the One Big Beautiful Bill Act just put into place. Or they go over certain thresholds with money that they don't even need. They didn't even need to be taking, and they just put it in the bank when what they really should have been doing is just leaving it in there, leaving their income lower so that they didn't hit certain thresholds to have to pay higher taxes on their Social Security or, their IRAs as they start to grow, and they didn't understand these Roth conversion strategies and these tax loss harvesting strategies and these real beneficial tax strategies that really work in retirement and really help you to avoid paying way too much in taxes. So they're just not versed in this stuff. They don't understand. Why all of a sudden do I pay more for my Medicare Part B than everybody else does? And I don't understand what happened. What did I do? And it's just, we see it all the time, Mitch. These people don't understand. They're so good at the first part. Like, right. They're really good at using their gut to make great investments.
That's right.
But in retirement, it doesn't work that way. And they have to learn the hard way. And for me, what I see is why even accumulate all those assets and grow all those assets to the point if you're just going to be super inefficient in retirement and end up, not getting nearly the benefit you should be getting out of all the money that you've worked so hard and taken all that risk to save. When you just need to understand that retirement planning is a different landscape and it's a different deal, and there's just a lot going on that you could easily miss things. You can easily make drastic mistakes that cost you big time, and that's what we help people avoid. That's what we do. That's where our expertise lies, in helping you to navigate that landscape and helping you to understand that life has changed. It is a different ball game, and when you change gears and you go into that distribution phase, and now it's time to start using all of those assets you've worked so hard to save to generate an income, it's a different ball game. And you better know what you're doing. And that's what we can help you with at ClearPath. That's what we do. Like I say, we live, eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. It is what we live for. It is what we are passionate about. And if this stuff is confusing to you, if you don't understand, what I'm saying here, and you want to get real clear and you have questions that you want to ask, please go to clearpathretirement.com. Shoot us a message. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know, what is it that we've talked about today that isn't sitting right with you and that you want more information on. Is it tax strategies to help you be more tax efficient? Or is it something to do with estate planning and having a trust and those sort of things? We're going to continue this, guys. We'll be right back. Retirement planning isn't just about growing money. It's about using it wisely, generating income, managing taxes, planning for healthcare costs, protecting your legacy. At ClearPath Retirement Planning, we specialize in helping retirees and pre-retirees transition from accumulation to distribution with confidence and clarity. If you're approaching retirement and want a plan, not just opinions, discover the ClearPath difference. Visit clearpathretirement.com today.
Welcome to ClearPath Retirement Radio. From retirement income and tax planning to protecting the savings you've worked a lifetime to build, this is real-world financial talk designed for real people. People who want clear answers, not sales pitches, so you can make informed decisions and plan for retirement with confidence. Now, here are your hosts, Stewart Smith and Mitch Davies.
This is ClearPath Retirement Radio. I am Stewart Smith here with Mitch Davies, and it is time for Mitch to update you on the markets with Mitch's Market Minute, and take it away, Mitch.
Thank you, Stewart. I'm excited as always. We're going to keep the same structure. We're going to talk about where we're at today, what we're watching, what's going on, all that fun stuff. So we're in the midst of the same stuff we've been dealing with. The markets are doing well right now, but we've still got this conflict overseas. We've still got some inflation worries, and Stewart, we were talking this morning, or maybe it was yesterday, and we said that the market's at unprecedented point right now, right? It's hard to gauge what's going on when you've got all these different things going on, but the war is kind of clouding everything. It's like, how do you look under the hood and see what's really happening in the market, right? It's really tricky today. And, the three things that are happening that we want to focus on are obviously the war overseas. We've got, again, some mixed ceasefire, no ceasefire. There's a lot of back and forth there. And at this point, we're just like, we're not following the daily tweets. It's so hard. Every day there's some new report about there's going to be a ceasefire, there's not going to be a ceasefire. And if you're not aware, we're talking about the war in Iran going on right now. The second thing going on is inflation. We're obviously, you guys, when you go fill up your cars, you're seeing, here in South Carolina, we're in the high $4, almost $5 for regular gas. The grocery store feels expensive. Inflation's high right now. We're coming in at over 3.8% year over year, which is high. And the third thing we're watching is stocks are doing very well. And this is what makes it unprecedented, is we've got record earnings across all the biggest companies. All the biggest companies in the market right now are earning a lot of money. They're very efficient with all this AI, with this new advances in technology. Companies are earning a lot of money. Inflation's high. There's a war going on, and we're at all-time highs in the stock market. Mm-hmm. So it's very tricky to track this stuff. And, this goes perfectly with what we're talking about today. If you're somebody who hasn't been following this your whole life, doesn't make a profession out of this like we do, and you're stepping into retirement from your job and you never learned this stuff, you had no reason to learn this stuff, and you're stepping into retirement and you're trying to figure out what's going to happen today, it's almost harder than ever. Yeah. It's more confusing and there's more conflicting things happening than ever, where there's professional money managers who don't know exactly what's going to happen, right? People that have been doing this their whole lives. So the biggest takeaway I'd say is if you're, again, stepping into that phase and you're trying to follow all this stuff, this goes back to the way we structure retirement income planning is so different for a specific reason. If you're 20 years old and you're starting your working career and you're just trying to invest as much as you can, this isn't as much of a concern, right? We've got all the stock market history to tell us that over a certain amount of time, we'll always be profitable, right? Since 1920, if we just leave our money in long enough, we'll eventually make money. Most people understand that. But what they don't understand, and what's impossible to understand, is what's going to happen in the next 5 years, right? Yeah. Nobody can predict that perfectly. I can't, Stewart can't, nobody in the world can, right? All we can do is say, what's the range of outcomes? What are the things that could happen? And how do we structure our clients, who are all either retiring or retired, to be in the most successful position to do the three things that we want to do, to get some growth, protect our money, and have income through retirement. And that's the foundation of what we do at ClearPath Retirement. That is the bread and butter of the ClearPath retirement process. And that's what it all boils down to, because most of our clients, Stewart, are not professionals in this, right? They don't know this stuff. They don't understand. They're not watching company earnings like we are. They're not following inflation reports. They're not watching every day to see what's happening overseas. And even with doing all that, it's still hard to predict. So the biggest takeaway is have a plan, have a process, have a team that is doing this stuff professionally to help you navigate through that. Otherwise, it's tougher than ever, man.
Yeah. I just don't see us really being able to get our finger on the pulse of really any clarity whatsoever with the markets until we get this, this war worked out, until we get, the Straits of Hormuz open back up and things flow in the way that they should be, because until then, it's just, and any expert that gets on TV or the radio and says different, I mean, they don't know. No. I'm telling you, it's way too cloudy right now. We don't understand how all the different ways that this is impacting the markets and the economy, and how things are stagnating and being held up. And, fuel's just one of the many, many puzzle pieces that get, affected by this. But, I can tell you that, in times like these is when you really gives you peace of mind to know that your investments, your assets are all structured in a way that you're going to weather this, and you have things set up in a way that gives you the confidence to not have to watch the news and not have to pace a hole in front of the TV and worrying about what's going to happen next. That is no way to live in retirement. And, what we want to do is take that off of you, give you the confidence to walk away from all that and go have, the retirement that you really want, where you're just not worried about this stuff. No. It's just, you understand that, even, there's going to be ups and downs, but you are, your assets are situated in a way to where you can weather it. You can, you can get through it, and you're confident knowing that you're going to be okay. So, some of the things that I want to talk about here in this segment is, one of the things that we see, and we're just talking tax efficiency right now, and one of the things that we've talked about with folks recently, and I want to bring up is, this whole qualified charitable donation thing. It surprises me that more people don't understand this or are missing the boat on this. So I just want to mention it today on the show. Once you get to be age 70 and a half, and you are charitably inclined, and that means you are giving money to a church, you're giving money to any 503c nonprofit, any charitable activity that you have in your life, and we're in the South, so a lot of people are charitably inclined, and most people are tithing to their church. You need to make sure that when you get to age 70 and a half, that you change how you are making those charitable contributions. Most people are giving the church money on a weekly basis. Most people are just giving them money, and then at the end of the year, they might be claiming a charitable deduction on their taxes. Once you get to age 70 and a half, you are allowed to do what's called a qualified charitable donation, and that is where you are able to give money directly from your IRA or pre-tax account to the charity. And as long as it doesn't go through your hands first and it goes directly from your IRA to the charity, that money comes directly off the top. It's not a charitable deduction. It comes directly off the top of your taxable income, just like a standard deduction would. And it is a much more tax efficient way to be giving money to your church. And you need to understand that. And if you're not doing that, then please give us a call at 864-775-5033 or go to clearpathretirement.com and let us know that you want to sit down, and let's get that set up to where you are doing that directly from your IRA. You can still do it, with most custodians, most places that hold the money will still allow you to do it, on a monthly basis. And maybe at worst case, it would be just on an annual basis, but you do the same amount you would have done for the whole year. You just do it at once. And, most churches are not going to mind that whatsoever. And they can work that into their cash flow and their planning and how they do things. But trust me, that is one of the things we see people miss the most.
All the time. And we'll see people who we'll talk about Roth conversions, and they're like, no, I'm doing Roth conversions, right? Like, I'm trying to get it all done. Everybody wants to try to get money converted before they turn 73, because at 73 you have to start taking those required distributions where you have to take the money out and pay the taxes, right? And so people will be doing Roth conversions, and we'll ask about qualified charitable donations, and they're like, no, I don't. So if you're doing Roth conversions, if you're trying to get that pre-tax money out, which is a lot of times our goal, the QCD, the qualified charitable deduction, is a really good way to just add a little bit more to that, right? Knock down that income, just like when you're working and you contribute to a 401k. Comes right off the top of that income before the standard deduction. So it's stronger than taking an after-tax deduction on that money.
And it counts towards your RMD.
Yep.
Like, a lot of people miss that. Like,
right.
This counts towards your RMD. So that is money that counts towards your required minimum distribution, the money you have to take, and also comes right off the top.
Yeah, it's a double tax benefit.
It's so good, right? Yeah. And you can do up to $108,000 a year out of your IRA through qualified charitable donations. And since it reduces your taxable income, it could keep you from hitting thresholds that you're hitting. It could keep you from hitting IRMA thresholds, or it could keep you from, hitting the threshold for the extra deduction on the One Big Beautiful Bill Act.
Right.
And that's just smart planning, guys.
Yeah.
Like, that's just, you need to understand that. That is probably the best kept secret that there is out there. And, the other thing I want to put on your radar is, through 2028, you're getting that extra standard deduction for a married couple of $12,000 a year on top of the already great standard deduction of $31,500 that married couples get in this country. And what a better time what better time would you have to be thinking about doing some small Roth conversions than while you're getting these extra, standard deductions? That's, $12,000 a year of money that you could be converting really at no extra cost to you. And, that is something that, if you've thought about doing them, you're confused, you're not sure about the Roth conversions. I mean, starting there would just make perfect sense. And so, a lot of people are like already required minimum distribution age, and they're worried about, well, how does that affect my required minimum distribution? Well, you just have to take your RMD first. Right. And then once you've taken that, you can convert in addition to what your required minimum distribution is. And, you can still do it. It's still very doable, and it's still going to help you tremendously in the long run. When you do Roth conversions, you got to be thinking long term. Right. You got to really be thinking over about 25, 30 years about the benefits in that. And if that's something you've been thinking about, you're not sure about, give us a call, 864-775-5033. Or go to clearpathretirement.com and just hit that Get Started button now, and just send us a message. Let us know, hey, this is something I've been thinking about. Can you guys help me get clear on this? And we'd be happy just to sit down and have a discussion. No pressure, no obligation to you whatsoever. Guys, we will be right back for our last segment. Are you a business owner with an email list you are not sure is actually growing your business? Most business owners are just guessing, sending emails, hoping for a click. At Kathy Farah Consulting, we take guesswork out of your email marketing. We help you identify what's working and fix what's broken, turning your list into a reliable engine for better leads and consistent sales. Stop wondering, start growing. Visit kathyfarah.com to book your free email clarity call today. Let's make your email marketing work smarter.
Thanks for tuning in to Clear Path Retirement Radio with Stewart Smith and Mitch Davies. Let's get back to the show.
This is Clear Path Retirement Radio. I'm your host, Stewart Smith, here with Mitch Davies as always.
Welcome back.
We are today talking about, common things that we see where people kind of miss the boat and cause them issues in retirement, things that, maybe not everybody understands or is on everybody's radar, that we want to just kind of bring up and just make sure that at least it's on your radar and you kind of, you can kind of understand that these things are out there and things you need to be looking out for. We just talked about qualified charitable donations and how those are so often missed. And, another thing that I think is very misunderstood and not totally, where people really are inefficient is what accounts they access when it comes to retirement. We call that withdrawal order, and that is, do I tap the IRA first? Do I spend my savings first? Do I spend Roth money? Do I, spend money from my brokerage account? All of those accounts have very different tax consequences associated with them. Your IRAs are pre-tax money that have never paid taxes on. So whenever you do access that money, it's all taxable as income. And then, the brokerage accounts are a little different. They're, the money that you put into a brokerage account is after-tax money that you've already paid taxes on, but you have to pay taxes on the growth in that account as you go forward. And then, your bank accounts work the same way. If you have a high-yield savings account or a money market account, you've already paid the taxes on the money you put into those accounts, but you still do have to pay taxes on the growth in those as well. And finally, Roth money. Roth money is magical because Roth money, you put in after-tax money that you've already paid taxes on, but the real treasure there is that you never pay taxes on the growth. And, we hear a lot of people say, yeah, but you can't touch it for 5 years.
Right.
And that's just not true.
No.
So the 5-year rule applies to only the growth in a Roth account. You can't touch the growth for 5 years if you want it to be not taxed.
Right.
But you can always get back to the money that you originally contributed into the Roth.
That's right.
So don't let that keep you back, right? I love this line that I heard recently. It says, the IRS is your silent partner in your IRA. Roth conversions are how you buy them out at today's prices. Right?
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Right? So think about that for a minute. Do you want to have it held over your head that every time you take money out of your IRA, a portion of it has to go to the IRS and never know exactly what that portion is going to be? I mean, we ask all the time when we're doing workshops with folks, how many people here think taxes are going down in the future?
Nobody raises their hand.
And we have not had a taker on that in quite a while. So if that's the case, and if you are truly believe, as we do at the firm, that taxes are only going up in the future, and you've saved all of your money for retirement in a pre-tax account like an IRA, would it make sense to potentially start taking some of that money as it makes sense and going ahead and biting the bullet, paying the taxes on it now, and getting it over to a Roth account where that money can grow tax-free and you never have to take required minimum distributions from it. You never have to pay taxes on that money again. And not only that, but if you leave that money to someone else, they never have to pay taxes on it.
Right.
Would that make sense? Is that logical? And I'd have to say most people see that is absolutely the right play and the right way to do things, and they're very confident that is going to help them with their overall tax picture. So, back to withdrawal order and what accounts you take when. right? Like, you either determine your withdrawal order or the IRS decides your withdrawal order.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you know, if you are not aware and you are saving money in pre-tax accounts like an IRA, for example, at a certain age, the government is going to say to you, and for most people it's around 73, the government is going to say to you, you've enjoyed tax deferral on this money long enough. It is time for you to start taking a percentage of this account every single year and paying the taxes on it, because we are tired of waiting on our cut, right?
Right.
And, you know, that is called a required minimum distribution, and that is what clouds the tax picture so much. Because if you could just keep deferring it forever, then we could control the taxes so much better, because we could only take money when we absolutely needed to take money and pay the taxes on it then. But that's not the case, Mitch.
I wish.
And people just need to get that through their heads, is that at some point, if you just let that IRA continue to grow and you never do any conversions or start getting the money out of there, that just means bigger required minimum distributions when the time comes. Those required minimum distributions are considered income, right, in the year that you take them. So that can push you up into a higher tax bracket and push you up into getting more of your Social Security taxed. It can push you up into missing out on, you know, tax breaks that go away at certain thresholds. It really can determine, you know, a lot of things for you. So you need to take control of that. And the way you take control is you do that on your terms.
Right.
You move the money out of the IRA and pay the taxes on it on your terms. And you control that. And if you're really smart, between age of retirement, whatever that is for you, and age 73, you get all that money out of that IRA over into a Roth. So when you hit that required minimum distribution age, you don't have to do RMDs. You don't even have to think about it.
Yeah.
Right? That's the magic window, we call it. That is the time to be aggressive. And a lot of people, it's hard for them. I get it.
Yep.
It's really hard to see the big, long picture and to think, well, what if I don't make it to 73?
Right.
And I just paid all these taxes for nothing. Well, that's the risk that you got to take. And that's why we have these conversations about, hey, you know, how healthy are you?
Right.
Right? What does longevity look like in your family? I mean, if you think you're going to live to age 90, then getting it all out before you're 73 and then having all that tax-free money between 73 and 90 is huge on your overall tax picture, and really frees you up to live a different lifestyle, because money you take out of a Roth is not even considered income.
Right.
And it can put you into a zero taxes on your Social Security and put you in, give you the most tax benefits that you could possibly have. But you got to get real. Like, do I really expect to live to 90?
Right.
Because if you don't, then maybe it doesn't make sense for you. But that's why you got to have a plan. That's why you got to have, you know, a real, you know, advisor that can kind of talk you through and understand all these different, you know, variables that are going on here to make you, you know, to really understand, like, does this benefit me? And I can tell you, even if it doesn't benefit you, it's going to benefit either your spouse or your children.
Right.
Because if you get that money to a tax-free state and something happens to you, your spouse is way better off,
yes.
right? Because the minute something happens to you, now the standard deduction gets cut in half on her taxes or his taxes. Now all the thresholds come down to be a single person as opposed to a married couple. And, we kind of call that the tax torpedo, where you can really leave somebody in bad shape if all you're leaving them is IRA money,
Right.
because now they have to take a lot more money out and pay a lot more taxes in order to get the same lifestyle. So, these are all things that you need to be thinking about, but these are the real conversations that we have with people. And this is we have to really get down to the nitty gritty with them, where the rubber meets the road, and find out what makes sense and what doesn't.
We do. And, the most common mistake people make without understanding all this, without knowing all this, because you don't know what you don't know, is people will, work hard. They're getting into a high tax bracket towards the later end of their career. They finally get into retirement. They've saved some money in a bank or in CDs or something. And they're like, Stewart, I've paid all these taxes. I want to be in a low tax bracket. They get they're in their mid 60s and they're in a 12% bracket for the first time in a long time. And they're like, cool, I just want to keep spending this bank account money. And then what happens is they end up living to 87, and in their 70s and 80s, they're in a higher tax bracket than they would have been had they had a conversion schedule, had they done this kind of planning. But they don't know what they don't know. So they let the government set the age for the RMDs at a good time. They've thought all this through, right? They're actuarially, they know that if they defer it longer, they're going to get more money. And they know most people people kind of get into retirement and are scared of those IRAs. Like, I don't want to pay any more taxes, right? They almost shy away from them, and they try to just spend all the after-tax money they can. But if we can be intentional with that, like you said, we can decide the withdrawal order, not the government.
Yeah. Well, listen, I hope you guys have enjoyed the show today. If any of this has struck a chord with you, if any of it is something that you want to find out more information about, we love to hear from you at ClearPath Retirement Planning. We are an upstate retirement planning firm here in Greenville, South Carolina, serving South and North Carolina. We are veteran-owned and operated, and if we can be of service to you, please give us a call, 864-775-5033, or visit us at our website, clearpathretirement.com. We're also on YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel, and until next week, everybody have a happy retirement. Are you anxious to see what retirement might look like for you? Do you feel like you have the pieces of the puzzle, but you're not sure how they fit together or where to start? At ClearPath Retirement, we help you bring clarity to retirement by organizing your income, taxes, healthcare decisions, and legacy planning into one cohesive plan. Retirement doesn't have to feel uncertain. It just needs a clear path. Schedule your complimentary consultation at clearpathretirement.com.
You've been listening to ClearPath Retirement Radio with Stewart Smith and Mitch Davies, helping you make informed decisions so you can plan for retirement with confidence. To learn more, visit clearpathretirement.com. That's clearpathretirement.com. Investment advisory services offered through AlphaStar Capital Management, LLC, a SEC-registered investment advisor. SEC registration does not constitute an endorsement of the firm by the SEC, nor does it indicate that the advisor has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Fixed insurance products are offered through ClearPath Retirement Planning, LLC, and AlphaStar Capital Management is not involved in the offer, recommendation, sale, or management of commission-based fixed insurance products. AlphaStar Capital Management and ClearPath Retirement Planning, LLC are separate and independent entities. This is for informational purposes only and is not intended as legal, tax, or investment advice or a recommendation of any particular security, investment product, or investment strategy.